John here with Ripewave Xpress for our quick version of the overview and first look at Denon's latest AV receiver, the AVR-X6800H, which is introduced at $3,499 and is the successor to the AVR-X6700H. Now, when we look at these units, we want to compare against prior and current generation, as well as tier below and tier above. Now, we brought in the X4800H as part of our super review last year on the Ripewave audio channel. And in that case, we found that the sound quality of the X4800 to be a tier 2, not as good as what we get from the likes of the RMC1 from Emotiva, which is a tier 1 product. And we found other brands and models that fit into that tier. The question is, will this X6800 go up to that first tier and compete a little more closely with that AV processor that we have in-house? And of course, you're going to say that's not fair, a receiver against processor, but I have found receivers that have sounded better than processor separates. So we will see. So how does this compare against the X4800? Why would somebody pay $1,000 more for the 6800, which is about $3,500, and from the 4800, which is $2,500? Why would they pay $1,000 more? Well, it has 2 more channels of internal amplification. It has 11 channels versus 9. It's rated at 140 watts into 2 channels versus 125. Now, if you use the 70% rule from Denon Marantz, that comes to 98 watts into 5 channels and 88 watts into 5 channels for the 4800. So comparing these units, for 5 channels driven, 70%, that's 98 watts per channel with 5 channels driven, and 88 watts 5 channels driven for the 4800. Now, if you need more power, this is where you might go up to their flagship, the A1H, 15 amplifiers. So you're getting 4 more amplifiers in the A1H, 150 watts into 2 channels, 105 watts into 5 channels. So this is what you get when you go a step lower and a step above the 6800. Well, you say, well, how does it compare against the prior generation, the 6700? Well, there's 2 less channels of processing. Why is that? Because the new series all have 4 independent subwoofers versus 2. So this is why what you'll see between generations, 2 more channels of processing because you have 4 independent subwoofer outputs. So 15 channels of processing versus 17 between the 67 and 6800. Same number of amplifiers, 11, same 140 watts into 2 channels, 98 into 5 channels. That's the same. And we see the same difference with the series tier below, the 47 versus the 48, 9 channels of amplification, 125 into 2 channels. So that is very consistent. Now, when you go a tier above, they have this 8500, which is still available for sale today at $4,600. So there is a step between the current flagship and the 6800, which is the X8500HA, but it's still much more expensive to get. And I really don't see the value if you have a 6800 moving to an 8500 that you're going to get, although it is in a platform that is a little more robust. So does that give you that extra sound quality? That's what we're curious about. We haven't brought those in yet. Okay, so if we take a look at this, and it's going to be the classic front as we see here, the one I've already unboxed here. I did the unboxing in the full Ripewave audio video. Still the same door that opens up in the front. The remote that we get with this is the same type of remote that we saw in the 3800, the 6800, the 3800, and the 4800, and it's the same remote that we see in the flagship. When we start to compare this against the prior model, the 6700, the remote has changed. from that. When you open up the door, we see that an HDMI input that was once on the 6700 is no longer available on the front of the Denon. And some of you missed that. But they've taken away from all the new models. When we flip it around the back, looks very similar, but with the new ones, you get that extra subwoofer count, but you lose component and composite video count, not as high as it was. Right? And we can compare these against all these other models that we have within the Denon portfolio today, and we see very similar changes. If we look inside of this, the 67 versus the 68, very similar. I'd be hard-pressed to really notice much of a difference. It looks like it's built on the same platform. The big change is the HDMI board, because you're now getting HDMI 2.1 on all the HDMI inputs, and then on the outputs, only one is 4K. The other two of the three are 8K. So big difference there was with the HDMI, but otherwise very similar. With the old unit, it was only one 8K HDMI that was available. Looking at these side by side internally, obviously when you move up to the 8500, the A1H, that platform is much more robust than what you get with the 6800, 4800, or even the 3800, which isn't pictured. Comparing it to Marantz equivalents, very similar to the SR8015 would line up, but Marantz hasn't come out with an equivalent to the 6800 in their most current generation. So keep that in mind, that could be coming. When we look at the sound formats, what you get on these new units is capability of 360 reality audio, which you didn't have before. The 6800, what that gives you over the 4800 is DTS:X Pro and front wide speaker capabilities. So that is an addition to Dolby Atmos, DTS:X, and Aural 3D. So more flexibility on the speaker layouts. Also that we found is with the latest release of firmware, these now not only have Dirac Live as a paid option, which you didn't get on the prior generations, but you have Dirac Live bass control. Single sub at $350, multi-sub up to 4 subs on these for $500. So you get that enhancement. The 6800 gives 104 decibel signal to noise ratio output versus 102 from the prior generation and the 4800. 0.004% output, DSD and PCM the same as everything else. We don't know what the chips are in it, but all very good in there. As far as capabilities of networking and voice control and ecosystems and internet streaming, we're seeing the same capabilities throughout this line. A few exceptions. If you want to see those, go to the full video. We'll explain those minor differences. And then on the weight, this thing comes in at 34 pounds, 15.6 kilograms. So it's pretty good there. This is built in Japan. It's giving you a 3-year warranty. So here is the unit. You can see the full unboxing on the other video. All the power supplies, the standard Odyssey microphone. No printed manuals, but some quick start guides. So what are your thoughts? If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to Ripewave Xpress and our companion channel, Ripewave Audio. And we hope to see you back here real soon. And until then, keep evolving your audio experience.